You don't quite fit the aesthetic we're going for, Eleanor said, her perfectly painted lips curving into what others might mistake for an apologetic smile. I'm sure you understand, dear. I stood there in my carefully chosen dress, the one I'd spent 3 paychecks on, feeling like I'd been slapped. The family portrait was happening in 10 minutes, and I'd just been told I wasn't welcome in it. Again, my name is Hope, and for the past 5 years I've been trying to earn my place in the Diaz family. Sometimes I wonder if marrying Rowan was worth all this, but then I see his smile and remember why I fell in love with him. It's just too bad his mother comes as part of the package. Mum, that's ridiculous, Rowan protested, but his voice lacked conviction. Hope his family. Eleanor's laugh tinkled like expensive crystal. Darling, this is for the Charity Foundation's annual report. We need to project a certain image. Hope's outfit is a bit… well? She gestured vaguely at my dress, letting the silence speak volumes. I caught my reflection in one of the mansion's many mirrors. The emerald green dress hugged my curves perfectly. At least that's what Emily had said when we went shopping. Now, under Eleanor's critical gaze, I felt like a child playing dress-up. It's fine, I said, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. I'll just wait here. Perfect, Eleanor clapped her hands. Anthony, make sure the photographer is ready. Rowan, fix your tie, darling. I watched as the family assembled in the grand living room. Eleanor, resplendent in her designer dress, positioned herself center stage. Rowan's sisters, both wearing Eleanor-approved outfits, flanked her perfectly. Even Anthony, Eleanor's brother-in-law, knew exactly where to stand. Hope, be a dear and make sure my pearls are straight, Eleanor called out. I walked over, adjusting her necklace, while she pretended not to notice how my hands shook. Up close, I could smell her signature perfume, something French and probably worth more than my monthly salary. You know, she whispered, just for me, if you'd put a bit more effort into your appearance, maybe next time you could join us and do something about that hair. It's so ethnic. My throat tightened. I stepped back, watching as the photographer directed them into position. Rowan caught my eye and mouthed, sorry, but he didn't leave his spot next to his mother. Perfect, the photographer exclaimed. Now, big smiles, everyone. This is family. Family. Right. I slipped out to the bathroom, gripping the marble countertop until my knuckles turned white. My phone buzzed, a text from Emily. How's the dragon lady today? I typed back. Just got excluded from another family portrait. Apparently, I don't fit the aesthetic. The response was immediate. That witch. Want me to come over and accidentally spill wine on her precious Persian rug? Despite everything, I smiled. Emily had been my rock through all of this, the voice of reason reminding me I wasn't crazy for feeling hurt by Eleanor's constant jabs. When I returned, the portrait session was over. Eleanor was showing the preliminary shots on the photographer's camera to everyone, cooing over how perfect they looked. Oh, Hope, she called out, would you mind getting everyone some refreshments? The help is on break, and we're all parched from the photo shoot. I moved toward the kitchen, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the way she said, the help, or maybe it was 5 years of accumulated slights, finally reaching their breaking point. Actually, I said, my voice steady, I have a meeting to get to. I'm sure someone else can handle the refreshments. Eleanor's eyebrows shot up, and for a moment, her perfect mask slipped. A meeting? On Sunday? Yes, I replied, gathering my purse. It's important. I didn't have a meeting, but as I walked out of that mansion, my heels clicking against the marble floors, something shifted inside me. I was done being invisible. Done being the family charity case. Done being Eleanor's personal punching bag. My phone buzzed again. Emily. Drinks. I'm buying. Yes, I typed back, and I need your help with something, because here's the thing about being invisible. People tend to say and do things around you that they shouldn't, and over the past 5 years, I'd seen and heard plenty. Eleanor's perfect image had cracks, and I knew exactly where to look for them. It was time to show my dear mother-in-law that the invisible woman she'd created was about to become her worst nightmare. "Holy shit," Emily said, nearly spitting out her martini. "You're telling me Eleanor's precious charity foundation might be a front?" I nodded, sliding my phone across the bar to show her the photos I'd taken of some paperwork I'd found in Eleanor's study while looking for spare napkins during one of her countless dinner parties. "Look at these numbers," I pointed to a spreadsheet. "The foundation claims to donate millions to children's hospitals, but I've been tracking their actual contributions. They don't match up, not even close." Emily squinted at the screen. "And you just happened to find this? Being invisible has its perks," I said, taking a sip of my wine. "Eleanor's so convinced I'm harmless, she doesn't even notice when I'm in the room anymore. Last week, she was on the phone with someone named Marcus about moving funds and creative accounting." "Damn, girl." Emily's eyes sparkled with mischief. "So what's the plan? Because you clearly didn't invite me here just to vent." I leaned forward. "I need your help. You work at the newspaper. As an advertising executive, not an investigative reporter," she interrupted. "But you know people," I pressed. "And more importantly, you know how to dig without drawing attention." Emily sat back, studying me. "You really want to do this? Because once you start, there's no going back. Eleanor will know it was you." "Good." The word came out harder than I intended. "I want her to know." "What about Rowan?" I fell silent, twirling my wine glass. "He needs to see who his mother really is. Maybe then he'll understand why I've been so miserable." Emily pulled out her laptop from her bag. "Okay, first things first. Let's look up this Marcus person. Got a last name?" For the next hour, we dug through social media and business registries. Emily's fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up connection after connection. "Wait," I said suddenly. "Stop there." The screen showed a photo of Eleanor at a charity gala, standing next to a man I recognized from her study. "That's him, Marcus." Emily typed rapidly. "Marcus Reynolds, financial advisor, specializes in, well, private foundations and tax shelters. Can you get me his office address?" "Hope," Emily's voice turned serious. "What exactly are you planning?" I pulled out a business card I'd been keeping in my wallet. "Remember Andre, the lawyer who helped with my mum's estate? He specializes in financial fraud cases now. You've really thought this through, haven't you?" "I've had 5 years to think about it." Emily closed her laptop. "Okay, I'm in. But we do this smart, no emotional decisions. We gather evidence, build a solid case, and when we strike, we destroy her," I finished. "Not just destroy her," Emily corrected. "We expose her. Properly. Legally. In a way she can't wriggle out of." My phone buzzed. A text from Rowan. "Where are you? Mum's asking if you're coming to dinner tomorrow." "Tell her I'll be there," I typed back. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." Emily read the text over my shoulder. "You're still going to her dinners?" "Of course," I smiled. "Like you said, we need to be smart. Eleanor's always telling me to put more effort into my appearance. Tomorrow, I'm going to be the perfect daughter-in-law." While secretly plotting her downfall, Emily grinned. "I love it. But first, we need to talk to Andre. If we're doing this, we need legal backup." I pulled out my phone again, scrolling to Andre's number. "Already ahead of you. Meeting him tomorrow morning." "Before Eleanor's dinner? Perfect timing, right? I'll go straight from getting evidence against her to sitting at her table, eating her food, smiling at her jokes." Emily raised her glass. "To Karma." I clinked my glass against hers. "To Karma." As we finished our drinks, Emily pulled up Marcus's office address on her phone. "It's downtown near the courthouse. Want me to come with you tomorrow?" "No," I said, standing up and gathering my things. "The less people involved directly, the better. But I'll need you to do something else." "Name it." "Start digging into the foundation's public records. Every donation, every event, every board member. Eleanor loves to brag about her charity work. Let's see if it all adds up." Emily's smile turned predatory. "Now that, I can definitely do." Walking to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years. The weight of Eleanor's constant criticism, her subtle jabs, her orchestrated exclusions. It was all transforming into fuel for what was coming. Tomorrow, I'd sit at her table, eat her food, and smile at her jokes. But this time, I'd be the one holding all the cards. The invisible woman was about to become very, very visible. And Eleanor wouldn't know what hit her. Andre's office smelled like leather and coffee, and his expression grew darker with each document I placed on his desk. "This is serious, Hope," he said, adjusting his reading glasses. "We're talking about potential tax fraud, misappropriation of charitable funds, false reporting." He shuffled through the papers. "Where did you get all this?" "Let's just say Eleanor isn't as careful as she thinks she is." I leaned forward. "Is it enough? To start an investigation?" "Yes. To guarantee a conviction?" "Not yet." Andre stood up and walked to his window, overlooking the city. "We need concrete proof of where the money's actually going." "I might be able to help with that," a voice said from the doorway. I spun around to find Anthony, Eleanor's brother-in-law, standing there. My heart stopped. "Don't look so terrified," he said, stepping into the office. "I've been waiting for someone to finally stand up to her." Andre's hand moved to his phone. "Should I call security?" "No," I said quickly, studying Anthony's face. "Let him talk." Anthony sat down heavily in the chair next to mine. "Eleanor's been running this scheme for years. The foundation takes in millions in donations, but only a fraction goes to actual charitable causes. The rest," he pulled out a USB drive. "Well, see for yourself." Andre plugged the drive into his computer, and we all gathered around his screen. Spreadsheets, bank statements, and emails filled the display. "How long have you known?" I asked Anthony. "Too long," he sighed. "But she's family, and she made sure I was comfortable enough to keep quiet." He rubbed his face. "I'm not proud of it." "What changed?" "You did." Anthony turned to face me. "Watching how she treats you, it reminded me of how she treated my sister before she passed away. Same tactics, same subtle cruelty. I couldn't stay silent anymore." Andre was rapidly taking notes. "This is exactly what we needed, but why come forward now?" "Because Eleanor's getting bolder," Anthony replied. "The Foundation's annual gala is coming up. She's planning to announce a major new initiative, supposedly building a children's hospital wing. But the money's already been allocated elsewhere. I can't let her fool more people." My phone buzzed, a text from Emily. "Found something big. Marcus Reynolds isn't just Eleanor's financial advisor. He's running similar schemes for 3 other foundations. Call me ASAP. We need to move carefully," Andre warned, noting my expression. "Eleanor has powerful friends. One wrong move and she'll bury everything." "The gala," I said suddenly. "That's where we do it. She'll have all her donors there, the press, everyone who matters to her image." Anthony nodded slowly. "She's planning a big family photo op too. Wants to show off her philanthropic dynasty to the society pages." "Another family portrait I won't be in," I muttered. "Oh, you'll be in this one," Anthony said with a grim smile. "In fact, you'll be the main attraction." Andre held up his hand. "Before we plan anything, I need to verify all this information. Anthony, are you willing to go on record?" "Yes," Anthony said without hesitation. "It's time." "Good. Hope, I need you to—" A knock at the door made us all jump. Andre's secretary poked her head in. "Mrs. Diaz is here to see you, Mr. Morgan." My blood ran cold. Anthony quickly gathered the papers while I grabbed my purse. "Back door," Andre mouthed, pointing to a side exit. We slipped out just as Eleanor's voice carried through the main office. "Andre, darling, I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." In the back hallway, Anthony grabbed my arm. "Tonight at dinner, act normal. I'll create a distraction so you can access her study again. The real records are in a locked drawer behind her desk." "How do you know?" "Because I helped her set up the filing system." He looked ashamed. "Make it right, Hope, for all of us." I nodded, my heart racing as I heard Eleanor's laughter echoing from Andre's office. Outside, I texted Emily. "Call me when you can. Things just got interesting." Then I headed home to get ready for dinner at Eleanor's. Time to play the dutiful daughter-in-law one more time. But tonight, instead of feeling invisible, I'd be seeing everything. The drawer behind her desk, the real records, the truth that would bring her carefully constructed world crashing down. Eleanor wanted a family portrait. Fine, but this time it would show exactly who she really was, and I would make sure everyone saw it. "More wine, Eleanor?" I asked sweetly, holding the crystal decanter. Her eyes narrowed slightly, probably wondering why I was being so attentive tonight. "Thank you, dear," she said, extending her glass. "You seem different tonight. New dress?" "Just trying to fit the aesthetic," I replied, echoing her words from the previous family portrait. Her lips tightened almost imperceptibly. Around the massive dining table, the family carried on their usual conversations. Rowan discussed business with his sisters, while Anthony expertly steered the discussion toward the upcoming gala. "The guest list is exceptional this year," Eleanor preened. "The governor confirmed this morning. And the society pages are sending their top photographer." "Speaking of photographers," Anthony cut in, right on cue. "Eleanor, I need your opinion on the event layout. I have some mock-ups in your study." "Now?" She frowned. "We're in the middle of dinner." "The printer needs an answer tonight," he pressed. "It'll only take a minute." Eleanor sighed dramatically but rose from her chair. "Excuse us, everyone. Hope, make sure the staff brings out dessert while I'm gone." Perfect. I waited exactly 2 minutes after they left, then pulled out my phone. "Oh, I'm so sorry, but I need to take this call." "Work emergency." I hurried out of the dining room, but instead of heading toward the front door, I slipped down the hallway to Eleanor's study. I could hear her voice through the partially open door. "Anthony, this is ridiculous. The layout is fine as it is." "But look at these sight lines," he insisted, positioning himself so his back was to the door. "The stage placement could be problematic." I crouched low, sliding into the study behind Eleanor's massive desk. The drawer Anthony mentioned was there, locked but nothing my hairpin couldn't handle. Thank you, misspent youth and Emily's questionable skills. My hands shook as I worked the lock, ears straining for any change in the conversation near the windows. "And we need to consider the lighting," Anthony continued, raising his voice slightly to cover the soft click of the drawer opening. Inside, exactly where he said they'd be, lay a stack of folders. I pulled out my phone and started taking photos as quickly as possible. Bank statements, transfer records, correspondence with offshore accounts. Everything we needed. "Enough!" Eleanor's sharp voice made me freeze. "The layout stays as planned. Now, if you'll excuse me—" "Wait," Anthony called out. "What about the, flower arrangements?" I heard Eleanor's exasperated sigh as I carefully closed the drawer, making sure it locked. Just as I was about to slip out, my eye caught something else, a document on her desk about the children's hospital wing announcement. One more photo. "Hope!" Rowan's voice called from the hallway. "Are you out here?" My heart stopped. "In here!" I called back, standing up quickly and pretending to be on my phone. "Sorry, just needed a quiet spot for this call." Rowan appeared in the doorway just as Eleanor turned around. "What are you doing in my study?" she demanded. "Oh, I'm so sorry," I gushed, channeling my best apologetic daughter-in-law. "I was just looking for a quiet spot for this work call. The dining room was too noisy. I hope you don't mind." Eleanor's eyes darted around the room, looking for anything out of place. "Work calls during dinner?" "It's that big project I mentioned," I said, knowing I'd never mentioned any project. "Actually, it's quite similar to your foundation work, managing large funds, coordinating with multiple parties." Her expression shifted from suspicion to condescension. "Oh, darling, I hardly think your little office job compares to running a charitable foundation." "You're probably right," I smiled, sliding my phone into my pocket. "Shall we return to dinner? I believe dessert should be ready." Back at the table, Anthony caught my eye. I gave him a slight nod. "The gala is next weekend," Eleanor announced as coffee was served. "Hope, do try to find something appropriate to wear this time. It's such an important event for the foundation's image." Don't worry, I said, sipping my coffee. I know exactly what I'm wearing. Later that night, I sent the photos to Andre and Emily in our secure group chat. Emily: holy shit, these numbers. Andre: this is exactly what we needed. I'm preparing the paperwork now. Me: how long until it's ready? Andre: just in time for the gala. You'll have front row seats to watch her world collapse. I turned off my phone and curled up next to a sleeping Rowan. One more week of playing the perfect daughter-in-law, of smiling through Eleanor's jabs, of being invisible. Then everyone would see the truth, captured in perfect lighting, with the governor and society pages there to witness it all. Eleanor wanted a photo opportunity. She was going to get one she'd never forget. Hope, what's going on with you? Rowan asked, catching me off guard as I was reviewing Emily's latest text about the process server arrangements for the gala. What do you mean? I locked my phone quickly, trying to keep my voice casual. He sat on the edge of our bed, his expression troubled. You're different lately, secretive, and you've been spending a lot of time with Anthony, of all people. I thought you wanted me to get along better with your family, I said, forcing a smile. It's not just that. Mum mentioned she saw your car outside Andre Morgan's office the other day. My heart skipped. Andre's helping me with some work-related legal questions. Not technically a lie. Since when do you need a fraud specialist for your job? I sat up straighter. Have you been checking up on me? Mum's worried about you, he said, running a hand through his hair. She thinks, of course she does, I cut in, anger finally seeping into my voice. Eleanor's always worried about something when it comes to me. My clothes, my job, my hair, my very existence in her precious family photos. That's not fair, Hope. She's trying... to what? Control everything. Maintain her perfect image. I got up and started pacing. When was the last time you actually stood up to her, Rowan? When she excluded me from the family portrait. When she made comments about my ethnic features. When she... Stop, Rowan stood up. You're being paranoid. Mom has her ways, but she means well. She just wants what's best for the family. I laughed bitterly. The family, or her reputation. My phone buzzed again. Andre, this time. Documents ready. Process server confirmed for gala. No turning back now. Who keeps texting you? Rowan reached for my phone. I snatched it away. Work stuff. At midnight? Big project, I said, echoing my excuse from Eleanor's dinner. You wouldn't understand. Try me, he challenged. For a moment, I was tempted to tell him everything. About his mother's fraud, about Anthony's evidence, about what was going to happen at the gala. But I remembered how he'd stood silently by during years of Eleanor's subtle cruelty. You're right, I said instead. I have been different lately. I'm finally standing up for myself. By sneaking around, keeping secrets. By refusing to be invisible anymore. His face softened. Hope, you've never been invisible to me. Haven't I? I met his eyes. When was the last time you really saw what your mother was doing to me? Really saw it, Rowan? Before he could answer, my phone buzzed again. Emily. Eleanor's asking questions about you at the country club. She's digging. I need some air, I said, grabbing my jacket. It's midnight, Rowan protested. I'm going to Emily's. Hope, wait. But I was already halfway down the stairs. In my car, I called Emily. What exactly is she asking? Who you've been meeting with, why you were at Andre's office. She's suspicious, Hope, and she's got resources. I pulled into Emily's driveway 20 minutes later. She was waiting with wine and her laptop. We need to move faster, she said as soon as I walked in. Eleanor's not stupid. She knows something's up. The gala's in 3 days, I said, collapsing onto her couch. We just need to keep it together until then. And Rowan, I closed my eyes. He's noticed too, asked me about it tonight. Are you going to tell him? And give Eleanor a chance to get ahead of this? No. I sat up. He'll find out with everyone else. Emily poured 2 glasses of wine. It's going to hurt him, you know, finding out about his mother like this. She's been hurting me for years, I replied. Sometimes the truth has to hurt before healing can start. My phone lit up with a text from Eleanor. Dear, let's have lunch tomorrow. Just us girls. We have so much to discuss. I showed Emily the message. It's a trap, she said immediately. Obviously. I typed back, looking forward to it, Eleanor. Noon. You're not actually going? I smiled. Of course I am. She wants to play games. Fine. But this time, I know all the rules. Emily raised her glass. To lunch with the devil. To the calm before the storm, I countered. As we clinked glasses, another text came through, this time from Anthony. Eleanor's asking questions. Be careful tomorrow. She's desperate. Good, I thought. Let her be desperate. Let her suspect. In 3 days, none of it would matter, because in 3 days, Eleanor's perfect world would shatter like the crystal glasses she loved so much, and I would finally be visible. The gala ballroom sparkled like Eleanor's favorite diamonds, every surface polished to perfection. Waiters glided between clusters of wealthy donors, their silver trays laden with champagne and hors d'oeuvres that probably cost more than my weekly salary. You clean up nicely, Eleanor said, appearing beside me in a designer gown that probably cost more than my car. Almost presentable. Thank you for the dress advice, I replied sweetly. You were right. Red does command attention. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Our lunch had been a carefully choreographed dance of probing questions and evasive answers, ending with her insistence on helping me choose an appropriate gown for tonight. The governor's about to arrive, she said. Do try to stay out of the official photos this time. Oh, I wouldn't dream of missing them. Before she could respond, Emily appeared, looking stunning in her role as press liaison for the evening. Mrs. Diaz, the photographer needs you by the donation wall. Eleanor swept away, leaving me with Emily. The server's in position, Emily whispered. Andre's outside with the paperwork. You ready? I spotted Rowan across the room, looking handsome in his tuxedo, chatting with Anthony. He caught my eye and smiled, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Ready as I'll ever be. Ladies and gentlemen, Eleanor's voice rang out from the small stage. Welcome to the Diaz Foundation's annual gala. The crowd applauded politely. I watched Eleanor in her element, commanding attention, radiating confidence. This year marks a special milestone, she continued. Tonight we announce our most ambitious project yet, a new children's wing at Metropolitan Hospital, fully funded by your generous donations. More applause. I saw the governor nodding appreciatively in the front row. But first, Eleanor smiled, I'd like to gather my family for a special photograph. This foundation is, after all, a family legacy. My phone buzzed. Andre. In position. Give the signal when ready. Rowan, darling, Eleanor called out. Anthony, girls, please join me. Hope. She paused for effect. Why don't you take a seat? We wouldn't want to overwhelm the photographer. The crowd tittered nervously. I stood my ground. Actually, I said, loud enough to carry, I think I should be in this photo. Eleanor's smile turned brittle. Dear, we discussed this. Yes, we did. At lunch. I moved toward the stage. Right after you asked about my meetings with Andre Morgan. The room grew quiet. Eleanor's hand tightened on her champagne glass. Hope, Rowan started, but I cut him off. No, let's do this properly. A real family photo, with everything out in the open. You're making a scene, Eleanor hissed. Am I? I turned to face the crowd. Did you know the children's wing announcement is fake? That the money's already been moved offshore? Gasps rippled through the audience. The governor stood up, frowning. Security, Eleanor called out, but Anthony stepped forward. She's right, Eleanor. It's over. The documents are quite clear, Andre's voice carried as he entered with a briefcase. Behind him, a process server followed with legal papers. Eleanor's face went from red to white. You ungrateful little... Mrs. Eleanor Diaz. The server stepped forward. You've been served. These documents detail charges of fraud, tax evasion, and misappropriation of charitable funds. Cameras flashed, not just the official photographer now, but phones throughout the crowd. Eleanor's perfect moment was being captured in all its imperfect glory. "Rowan," Eleanor pleaded, "tell them this is ridiculous." But Rowan was staring at the papers in Andre's hands, at Anthony's grim expression, at my unwavering stance. "What did you do, Mom?" "Nothing. These people are lying." "The numbers don't lie," Anthony cut in. "I've watched you do this for years. Not anymore." The governor was already heading for the exit. Donors were whispering, phones were buzzing with messages being sent. Eleanor's carefully constructed world was unraveling in real time. "Well," I said, stepping onto the stage beside her, "shall we take that family photo now?" Eleanor's champagne glass shattered on the floor. "You planned this," she whispered. "All of it. The lunch, the dress, the timing." "I learned from the best," I replied quietly. "You taught me all about image and timing, remember?" "Hope," Rowan's voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me?" Would you have believed me over her? The flash of the photographer's camera captured that moment. Eleanor's mask finally cracking, Rowan's devastation, Anthony's relief, and me, finally visible, finally standing my ground. It wasn't the family portrait Eleanor had planned, but it was real, and sometimes reality hurts more than any carefully crafted illusion. "You've ruined everything," Eleanor spat, her perfect composure finally shattering like her champagne glass. "Years of work, relationships, our family's reputation. You ruined it yourself," I cut in, my voice carrying across the now silent ballroom. "Every fake donation, every lie, every time you chose your image over actual charity." The process server stepped forward again. "Mrs. Diaz, you need to acknowledge receipt of these documents." "I acknowledged nothing," she hissed, but her manicured hands were shaking as she snatched the papers. Rowan moved between us. "Mom, just tell me it's not true." Eleanor's eyes darted around the room, probably counting how many phones were recording this moment. "Darling, your wife has clearly orchestrated this whole thing out of jealousy." "The evidence is right there," Anthony interrupted, pointing to the documents. "Bank transfers, fake receipts, offshore accounts, all of it." "You helped me set those up." Eleanor turned on him. "Yes," Anthony admitted, "and I'm ready to testify to that fact." The whispers in the crowd grew louder. I spotted several prominent donors already calling their lawyers. The governor's empty seat seemed to mock Eleanor's carefully planned evening. "Security," Eleanor called again, desperation creeping into her voice. "Remove these people." "They won't," I said quietly. "The head of security has already been shown proof of your embezzlement from employee pension funds." That hit home. Eleanor staggered slightly, reaching for the podium to steady herself. "How long?" Rowan asked, his voice hollow. "How long have you been stealing from your own charity?" "I never stole." Eleanor straightened up, trying to salvage her dignity. "I reallocated funds to maintain our position in society, to keep up appearances, to give you the life you deserved. By lying, by stealing from sick children, by doing what was necessary." She turned to the remaining guests. "Everything I did was for this family's legacy." "Mrs. Diaz," Andre stepped forward, "I suggest you stop talking until you have legal representation present." Eleanor's eyes locked onto mine, filled with a hatred I'd never seen before. You did this, after everything I did for you." "Everything you did to me," I corrected. "The constant criticism, the exclusion, the subtle humiliation. You never saw me as family. Just another thing to control." "Because you never belonged," she screamed, losing the last shreds of her composure. "You were never good enough for my son, for this family, for—" "Mom, stop!" Rowan's voice cracked like a whip. The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor's chest heaved, her perfect makeup starting to run with angry tears. "Mr. Morgan," a voice called from the doorway. 2 police officers entered the ballroom. "We received your call." Eleanor's face went ash white. "Rowan, darling, you can't let them—" But Rowan had stepped back, standing beside me. "I think you should go with them, Mom." Anthony, she turned to her brother-in-law pleadingly. It's over, Eleanor, he said softly. The truth was always going to come out eventually. As the officers approached, Eleanor straightened her spine one last time. You'll regret this, she said to me. All of you will. No, I replied. The only regret here is that it took so long to stop you. The officers led her away, reading her rights as they went. The remaining guests began to file out, phones buzzing with messages and calls. Tomorrow's society pages would have a very different story than Eleanor had planned. Hope, Rowan touched my arm. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me over her? Really? He looked away and I had my answer. Emily appeared at my side, her phone out. It's already hitting social media. The foundation's board members are calling emergency meetings. Andre says the DA wants to meet first thing tomorrow. I nodded, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me hollow. What happens now? Rowan asked, looking lost. Now, Anthony said, we start fixing what she broke, beginning with the foundation itself. And us? Rowan's eyes met mine, filled with uncertainty. I took his hand. That depends. Are you ready to see the truth? All of it. He squeezed my hand, then pulled me into a tight embrace. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I should have seen it. Should have stopped her. Over his shoulder, I watched the last photographers capturing the aftermath of Eleanor's downfall. Tomorrow, these images would be everywhere. The society queen's disgrace, the charity fraud exposed, the family shattered. But maybe, just maybe, something better could be built from the pieces. Let's go home, I said softly. Behind us, the ballroom's crystal chandeliers continued to sparkle, illuminating nothing but empty tables and shattered illusions. Ready? Emily squeezed my hand as we stood outside the courthouse. As I'll ever be, I replied, watching Eleanor being led up the steps in handcuffs, her designer outfit replaced by something far more modest. The media swarmed around us, shouting questions. Eleanor's trial had become the scandal of the year, exposing not just her fraud, but an entire network of corrupt charity foundations. Mrs. Diaz, a reporter called out, any comment on your mother-in-law's guilty plea? Before I could respond, Rowan stepped forward. My wife's name is Hope, and yes, we have a comment. I looked at him in surprise. He'd spent the past few weeks diving deep into the foundation's records, working with Anthony to salvage what they could. The Diaz Foundation is being restructured, he announced clearly, under new leadership with complete transparency. Every dollar will be accounted for, and the children's hospital wing will be built as promised. And who's leading this restructuring? Another reporter asked. I am, I said, finding my voice. Along with a new board of directors, including several former patients from the hospitals we actually did help. Eleanor's head snapped around at the sound of my voice. Our eyes met across the courthouse steps. For once, I didn't look away. Hope, she called out, her voice carrying despite the chaos. A word? The reporters fell silent, cameras rolling. Rowan squeezed my shoulder. You don't have to. Yes, I do. I walked over to where Eleanor stood with her guards. Up close, I could see how prison had already changed her. No makeup, no perfectly styled hair, no mask of superiority. Congratulations, she said bitterly. You've taken everything. No, Eleanor, I fixed what you broke. There's a difference. By stealing my foundation, my family. Your foundation stole from sick children and family. I glanced back at Rowan, who was watching us intently. Family isn't about control or image. It's about love, support, and truth. Truth, she scoffed. The truth is, you never would have survived in my world. You're right, I smiled. Because my world is better. It's real. I turned to walk away, but her voice stopped me. He'll never forgive you, Rowan, not for destroying his mother. You're wrong, Rowan said suddenly beside me. Mum, I forgave Hope the moment I saw those documents, because she did what I should have done years ago. She stood up to you. Eleanor's face crumpled for just a moment before the mask slipped back into place. The guards began leading her inside. "The photographer's here," Emily called out. I turned to see the same photographer from the gala setting up his camera on the courthouse steps. The same one who'd excluded me from so many family portraits. "Mrs. Diaz?" he asked uncertainly. "Hope," I corrected him. "Just Hope. Would you and Mr. Diaz like to take a photo for the Foundation's new website?" Eleanor's words echoed in my head. "You don't quite fit the aesthetic we're going for." I looked at Rowan, who smiled and took my hand. "What do you think, Hope? Do we fit the aesthetic?" "Actually," I said, "let's make it a real family photo. Emily, Anthony, get over here." They joined us on the steps, along with several members of the new board who'd come to witness Eleanor's plea. Real people with real passion for helping others. "Perfect," the photographer said. "Now, big smiles, everyone. This is family." As the camera flashed, I felt Rowan's arm tighten around my waist. "I love you," he whispered. "Thank you for showing me the truth." Behind us, the courthouse doors closed on Eleanor's retreating figure. But I wasn't watching her anymore. I was too busy being visible, being present, being real. Emily checked the photo on the photographer's camera and grinned. "Now that's what I call an aesthetic." "Send it to the society pages," I said. "Show them what a real family looks like." Later that evening, as we celebrated at Emily's place with takeout and wine, no fancy galas needed, my phone buzzed with a text from Anthony. "Eleanor asked to see the Foundation's new website. Should we send it?" I looked around at my real family, Rowan laughing with Emily about her latest dating disaster, our new board members passionately discussing upcoming projects, the wall behind them covered in photos of actual charity recipients. "Yes," I typed back. "Show her exactly what she missed by focusing on appearances instead of reality." Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's world. It's about building a better one in its place. And this time, I wasn't just in the picture. I was helping create it.